Beloved Saints, today's 5-minute message of redemptive history is about Zerubbabel Part 1 from the 5th book of Redemptive History series, The Promise of the Eternal Covenant. When we look in the genealogy of Jesus Christ in Matthew chapter 1, Zerubbabel appears after Shealtiel. As we have learned last time, Zerubbabel's biological father was actually Pedaiah, the younger brother of Shealtiel. But Zerubbabel's legal father was Shealtiel. The reason is that when Shealtiel died without a son to carry on the lineage, his brother Pedaiah took his sister-in-law and bore a son Zerubbabel. The name Zerubbabel means born in Babylon or descendant of Babylon. This reveals to us that Zerubbabel was born and raised in Babylon. Today in part 1, let us examine how Zerubbabel led the reconstruction of the temple after his return from Babylon. Although the Israelites were taken captive to Babylon, God promised that they would return after 70 years. In keeping with this promise, God stirred up the spirit of Cyrus the king of Persia and allowed the Israelites to return home from captivity, whereupon they began the reconstruction of the temple. Israelites began to return in 537 BC. This was the first return from Babylon. There were a total of 49,897 people who returned in the first return. There were also 11 leaders who represented them, and Zerubbabel was the first leader mentioned among them. Ezra chapter 2 verses 1-2 states, "Now these are the people of the province who came up from the captivity of the exiles, whom Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon had taken captive to Babylon. They returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to their own town, in company with Zerubbabel, Joshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Reliah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispar, Bigvai, Rehum, and Bana, the list of the men of the people of Israel." Seeing how Zerubbabel was mentioned first, this verse distinguishes Zerubbabel from the other 10 leaders, implying that he was the actual chief among the people during the first return from Babylon. Then, those who returned to Jerusalem finally began to rebuild the temple in the 2nd month of the 2nd year. Even at this time, the name Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, appears at the forefront. Shortly thereafter, when the adversaries who tried to hinder the construction of the temple approached the leaders of the captives who had returned, Zerubbabel's name appeared first again. It is evident that Zerubbabel was the leader of the people at the time of the return and throughout the entire process of the temple reconstruction. Beloved Saints, the fact that there were fewer than 50,000 participants in the first return shows that most of the Jews who were born during the period of captivity were afraid to leave. They did not want to leave behind their livelihood and the positions that they had established thus far and return to the ruins of Jerusalem. However, those who returned were inspired by God and possessed willing and voluntary faith regarding the reconstruction of the temple. Ezra chapter 1 verse 5 states, "Then the heads of fathers' households of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites arose, even everyone whose spirit God had stirred to go up and rebuild the house of the Lord which is in Jerusalem." These people sacrificed their personal interests and gains in order to follow God's word. Zerubbabel possessed the ability and spirituality worthy to represent these exceptional people of faith. I pray that we will not be like those who distance themselves from God's will, immersed in worldly comforts and pleasures. Instead, let our hearts be stirred up by God, and let us actively devote our lives for God's will. Moreover, let us become true leaders like Zerubbabel and stay faithful and steadfast. I bless in the name of the Lord.